here. This is a very important topic right now. I think we all can really benefit learning those signs, and as well as how to cope with it and some tips. And Hailea Whitlock is our social worker. So she's going to talk a little bit about herself as well as getting started.
Okay, and now I'm going to take my mask off. Wendy's off to the side, but so that y'all can maybe hear me a little bit better. As Wendy said, I'm the social worker here at Silverado, Hermann Park. My title is Director of Resident and Family Services, and that pretty much sums it up. I'm the go-to, I'm the middle person between our residents, our families, our team here, helping with the communication, but most importantly, trying to keep that connection alive between our residents and their families. Particularly, it's more important now than ever since COVID has kind of interfered in all of our lives. And so it's really trying to keep that connection alive, but also being supportive to the families, trying to help them keep them updated and as connected as possible with what's going on in the community, what's going on with their loved one. And so that kind of brings us into what we're talking about today with the caregiver stress and the impacts that COVID has had on that. Even though our caregivers here are not able to be present here in the community as often as they have been, they're still caregivers and they're still at home and still worrying about the day in and day out of what's going on with their loved one. And so it's really important, my role in particular, along with the rest of the team, it's really important that we keep that in the forefront of our minds, even though we may not be visually seeing them in the community every day, but really making sure that they're remaining a priority as well as taking care of their loved one here. So to begin with, and if y'all got questions or anything, feel free to send a message in and we'll try to accommodate to that as best as possible. Wendy's my tech guru. She's trying to help me over here.
Let's see. Darian, do we have the presentation? Did you have it pulled up?
So you'll have to pull it up on your side and press the share screen button at the bottom.
Okay.
And then it should be in an application window.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, we're getting this together, everyone. Can everyone see this?
Right now, it's still on you.
Okay, let's see here. Here we go. Okay.
There we go. Yep, now we can see it.
Okay, and then just go down over here.
Okay, perfect. So first, in this talk, we're going to kind of identify, what a caregiver is, what the stresses are, what are some of the emotions that can come with being a caregiver, what are some helpful tips that you can do for yourself, while also maybe some resources and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we'll identify, and that's the goal for just this presentation. So first, caregivers are individuals involved in assisting others with activities of daily living and or medical tasks. And caregiver stress is the emotional and physical strain of caring for someone in need of help. I think that a lot of times that caregivers, you probably all know, they're every day, all the priorities are focused on your loved one at home. or wherever you may be. You're constantly trying to make sure all their needs are being met. You're having to do all the daily, assist, maybe the different types of assistance may be different for everybody and varies for everyone. But, just even the fact that you may be reminding someone, hey, let's get dressed for the day, or hey, brush your teeth, or it may be actually you're having to physically do those things. And so you're constantly focused on every single need of your loved one. And a lot of times we will refer to our caregivers as the hidden patient. How often are friends and family members are calling and checking on you? How often are they saying, well, how are you doing? How are you feeling? They're probably just calling and saying, well, how's Bob? How is he doing today? Or how's your mom doing? They're not asking about, sometimes not purposefully, but they're sometimes not asking just how you are. And you're being overwhelmed with the daily task of caring for your loved one and the different stressors of the day. And so that will take a toll on you. Caregiving is very difficult. It is not easy. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So that is something that, the reason why it's so important to focus on our caregivers, because we want you to stay as healthy as you possibly can in order to continue caring for your loved one. Because so often, as you'll see it, caregivers who provide care to someone with dementia risk compromising their own immune systems for a period of up to 3 years after care ends, increasing their own risk of developments and chronic illness. In my experience, I can't tell you how often I have heard from families that once they've moved them in to a community, for them, it was time to move them into a community setting. And they said, now we can go to the doctor. Now we'll go do our follow-up appointments. And for some, it was too late. They had major issues that they were putting off constantly. They didn't make their yearly appointments because they didn't have somebody to, help them, give them a moment to go to their appointments. And so it's so important to help you, just as important as keeping your loved one's needs on the forefront of your mind. It's okay to have yours on the forefront of your mind as well, and keeping those a priority, because if not, that can create many issues, for yourself. Depression is another issue that we've seen our caregivers have. 4 in 10 family caregivers find their situation highly stressful. Caring for a spouse or parent and living with them at home can contribute to the stress. And think about your day to day. I don't know what all, y'all situations are, but I always say not everybody's dementia is the same. Not everybody's journey is the same. So for some, this may be an early onset. You may just be starting in this process. So things, the daily task may not be as difficult, but for some of you have been going through this for many years. It's getting harder by the day. The constant redirection, we're so used to saying like, oh, let's not do this. Let's do this, or, oh, let's come over here. When you're having to do that constantly every single day, day in and day out, it gets very tiresome. And just even think about, for you personally, you get up in the morning, you may go to the restroom, brush your teeth, wash your face, take a shower, get your clothes on for the day. That's just for you. But then you got another person who, depending on where they're at in their journey, brushing their teeth may be a real trigger for them. So one simple task, and now you've asked them, it's simple in our mind, but for them, it's an issue, and it's very difficult to get them to do that, or it's difficult to have to give them a shower or anything like that. These are just the daily tasks that you have to do every single day that can become very stressful. And these are just little things that caregivers are having to deal with on a daily basis. And another thing is the correlation between caregiver stress and income levels. So there are, resources within the community that I'm certain that care partners can certainly help y'all with, or, if y'all need any other assistance, we could as well. But, we were not living as long as we are now. And years ago, maybe the sanitation, we had poor sanitation, there was rampant diseases. We weren't living as long as we are now. And sometimes we were maybe retiring early, never planning to live into our 90s, or financially planning for that. And now here we are, and it's a financial burden. But there are resources. So please make sure that you reach out to, care partners, I'm sure can help assist you in what the resources are available to help you, because that will help take some of that burden or stress away from you. Dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and other forms of dementia, as we said, it doesn't just affect your loved one. It also affects the caregiver. As the disease progresses, care recipients increasingly depend on caregivers for assistance. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier in terms of having to meet all of the daily tasks. You think about, not only are you doing the laundry, the meal prep, you're now giving medications. You're having to be the advocate for your loved one, watching every little, making sure all the physical needs are being met, because you may have to correlate that to a physician. It's overwhelming. It can be overwhelming just having to do those things, keep that up for yourself, but then to add someone else on top of that you are the sole provider for them, that can be very difficult. Stress, depression, it's all very common for the caregivers. And one thing that I want to really encourage for y'all is that ask for help. It is okay to ask for help. Give yourself permission to ask for help. It's not weak. It doesn't mean that you're, not doing the right thing. Make sure that you ask for help. Be specific. I'm sure that you'll have had some friends or family that they'll say, well, just let me know if you need something. And they don't know what to do, or they don't know exactly how to be helpful to you. So one thing that you can do is just be specific. Let's just say that Jerry likes to go on a walk on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 30 minutes around the block. Hey, it would be really helpful to me. Jerry likes to go for a walk on Tuesday and Thursdays. Would you be able to do that? Or we have a lot of appointments on this day. It would be really helpful. I have a hard time getting a meal ready. It's always really stressful. What are we going to cook that day? It'd be helpful if you could provide a meal on Monday. So try to be specific. If people are reaching out to want to be helpful, a lot of times they just don't know how to be. So try to, make an effort in doing that. So with caregiving can come a lot of emotions. One of the things that I have noticed with a lot of our families is that they have felt not a lot of guilt. one, they may feel guilt that they had to have them come to a community setting. They may feel like they're not doing enough. This can be a very isolating disease. It's not only isolating to the patient, to your loved one, but it can be isolating for the caregivers as well. I know, for instance, many of our families, they may have been used to going out every Friday night for dinner with their friends. And now that's not a positive situation for the one you're caring for. It may be, or the friends don't know how to react or feel uncomfortable, so they may stop inviting you to dinner or to different events. And that can be very lonely. And so it's really important that finding a support group, finding a group of people that can have some empathy for your situation and some understanding to make those connections to try to help you through this. Spouses and adult children, they're feeling grief and loss. It's not unlike a death, but it's, because it's not sudden, it's over years with multiple losses. To me, this is the one I see the most that people struggle with. There can be a lot of sadness because there may be a lot of, due to all the losses that come with dementia. One, it may be the not getting to go out with friends anymore. We now have to kind of stay inside for meals. It may be that he or she may not recognize you. It's the first time that they don't recognize you. It may be they don't remember your birthday or an anniversary or just the holidays in general. They don't, we call this ambiguous loss, where you have multiple different losses occurring constantly that you're grieving over on a daily basis. And so caregivers for people with Alzheimer's or any other dementia, they're very vulnerable to burnout. This is, it's the day in, day out. You may not be able to leave the house very often, because when you do, depending on your loved ones, the severity of the situation, it may not be safe for them to leave often or to go to the store, to a restaurant. And so you're there day in, day out. You're not getting a lot of help. You're not getting, the resources are not available to you at that moment. And particularly with COVID, I know that this kind of has been an issue for some people that we've spoken to, that they're accustomed to going to day programs or having different events, activities throughout the week to help them with their schedules. And those have come to a stop due to COVID. And so you're not able, you kind of relied on that as being your break, those different activities, and you're not getting to do those anymore. But again, reach out to care partners. I know because there may be some virtual resources available. And as things are starting to open up, other people are getting creative now on how to do things. And so I think earlier I heard you say there were some drive-through events or something. So there are things available. Just make sure, again, be willing to ask for help and utilizing the support that's out there, because I think nowadays people are starting to understand the severity of being a caregiver and the importance of taking care of the caregiver. So there are options available to you. Another common emotion that I've seen is anger due to criticism from less involved family members who may not understand the extent of decline because of infrequent visits. I'm kind of smiling about this because I have heard of this more often than not. You've got an aunt who only visits every 2 months, and when she comes in, it's, my brother would not want his hair looking like that, would never dress like that, would never, why are you doing it this way? Why haven't you talked to the doctor? What, asking you 1,000 questions. And you find yourself defensive. You may lash out, you're angry because you're the one here day in, day out. You're the one who is taking care of everything. And you come flying in every 2 months and acting like you're ruling the roost, and but you're not here doing all of the different tasks that are required every single day. And so one thing that a little piece of advice on that I would give is that a lot of times criticism comes in a place of out of control, and control comes from a place of fear. So a lot of times, if you can, it takes a lot, it's easier said than done, but if you can just take a step back in those moments, if you're experiencing this at all, just remember that they're probably fearful because of what they're seeing, that they're scared, they're kind of seeing their loved one in a totally different light. And so they're just trying to control that situation because they're scared. It doesn't make it right, but in order to kind of help keep healthy relationships, try to remember that if you can. So, most of all, regardless of whatever emotion you may be having, just know it's okay. It's okay to have those feelings, whatever they may be. Give yourself the permission to feel those feelings, to be vulnerable to those feelings. And maybe just remind yourself, again, I know this is easier said than done, but, just give yourself some healthy self-talk of, I'm doing the very best that I can. Today wasn't great, but we're going to try again tomorrow. And it may be this hour wasn't great, but we'll work on the next hour. I mean, you may have to modify it to your situation. We can't control every situation or every moment of the day. That you're in this situation. And if you could have controlled not to even be in this situation, you would have, I'm sure. Nobody wishes this on anyone. But unfortunately, we are in these situations. And so, just make sure that however you're doing, as long as you're keeping yourself on the forefront and keeping yourself healthy and your loved one healthy as best as you can, you're doing all that you can. And so just kind of make sure that you give yourself that permission. So we talked about burnout earlier, and burnout is very common, for caregivers. So some of the warning signs, you may be thinking, well, how do I know I'm burned out? How would I know if I'm even experiencing any of that? So some of the signs that you may be experiencing burnout would be a lack of energy reserves. You may be feeling completely drained, or just barely making it by the end of the day. Maybe you're having some sleeping issues. Maybe you're sleeping too much. Maybe you're sleeping not enough. Maybe there's a change in sleeping patterns. I know that probably if your loved one lives with you, most often you're probably not choosing to have sleep disturbances at night, but most often you're probably not sleeping fully asleep because you're keeping your ears open constantly, trying to make sure, particularly if you have someone who gets up in the middle of the night or maybe a wanderer or anything, you're constantly listening to make sure that nothing, nobody's getting up or they're not going to hurt themselves or anything like that. So that may not necessarily be a choice, but it's certainly a disturbance in your sleep. You may be getting easily irritated or angered, overreacting to a simple situation, or maybe saddened. And, you may find yourself yelling at somebody at the drive-through that, that wouldn't be your typical behavior, but you're burned out. You may be burned out then. Maybe you're having poor concentration. You're having an issue focusing on things. Maybe you're having some short-term memory problems that's adding to the stress. Maybe you're repeating chores without thinking. Maybe you're neglecting your own appearance. So when's the last time you went to go get a haircut? When did you do something for you? Maybe you're neglecting other family members because for you, maybe it's too difficult to talk to them about what's going on, or maybe they just don't understand. So it's just easier not to deal with them. Possibly maybe you're having some weight gain or weight loss and change in eating habits. Maybe you find yourself having no interest in the hobbies that you typically really love to do. One, you're probably having difficulty finding time to do some of those activities, but quite honestly, you may not just be interested in them. That could be a sign of caregiver burnout. Another thing that would be really important for you to really be aware of is a lot of times stress comes in the form of physical symptoms. If you're having constant headaches, your hair is falling out, you're having stomach pain, you're having any kind of like heart palpitations or anything like that, please go check that out. Go talk to a doctor. And that, if you're having physical symptoms due to stress, not first go talk to the doctor, but two, that may be a sign that, you really need to reach out to try to get some other alternatives in place, whether that's in the home, whether that's outside of the home. Again, care partners, I'm sure, can help you assist in finding those resources that, because that's a pretty critical warning sign that it's becoming too much. And when you do identify any of these warning signs, if you see that you're struggling with any of these, it's important to go ahead and make a plan so that you can help decrease those issues. So for instance, if you're neglecting your own appearance, this is kind of simple, but and you want to, I haven't gone to the beauty shop. I usually go and I usually have dark hair. Now it's white. I don't know. Maybe go schedule you an appointment, something that'll make you feel good, and see if you can try to get, maybe a resource of somebody who can stay with you during those moments. That kind of leads me to the next slide, which is about caregiver. It's a caregiver stress scale, and it kind of identifies several different tasks that you would most likely be doing as a caregiver. It's a scale of 0 to 4, 0 having no stress at all, 4 always having stress. And I think y'all are going to get a copy of this so that you'll be able to look back. But take the opportunity to just kind of browse that. If you find that you're scoring 4s on a good portion of these tasks, it may be a good opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I'm seeing it on paper. It's yelling at me right here. I need to seek some help. I need to figure out how I can decrease my stress while doing these tasks. So for example, say you have all 4s on the dressing, the toileting, and the bathing, those things. You may be able to look at this and go, okay, so that's when I'm most stressed is when I'm having to do the morning, maybe it's the morning routine. getting him or her to take a shower, getting them bathed. It's turned in from a 1 hour, 1 hour to do that. Now it's taken 3 hours to get all of that done. And I am maxed out. By the time I get done with that, I'm just overwhelmed for the day. This is a tool that you can look at and say, okay, well, maybe I need help in the morning. If there would be, maybe some resources available to you that you could get someone maybe in the home to say, okay, from these 3 hours, I need somebody here so they can be the one that's getting him or her dressed for the day and getting them ready. That takes a little bit off of your plate. I don't think that's asking too much. I don't think it's asking too much for you to say, put yourself first. Your loved one's still getting the care that they need, but it's also putting you first, saying, I'm overwhelmed and I can't keep this level of anxiety and stress up. So if you can, reach out. So there's a scoring system. If your score 0 to 20, you still have some stress, but it sounds like you may have some minimal things to tweak. And that's great. If you're scoring, to that moderate to severe, even the mild to moderate, there's some major things to tweak. I'd say certainly if you're at the severe burden portion, please reach out to someone for your well-being. You have to be at your best, to be able to provide your best. And so that would be, if you've got that is a visual scale telling you you need help, and that is okay. It's completely fine that you need help. There are many people, care partners, we can work with y'all too to help assist, resources, anything like that. But we want you taken care of, and we want just as well as your loved one, but we certainly would want you to be taken care of. So that brings us to some tips. So caregiver support tips: accept your own limits. Know what you can and what you can do, what you're capable of doing. And no matter what those limits are, those are good. That's for you. What works for some doesn't work for others. Get a plan in place. I know particularly for our residents, having a kind of a steady schedule, that works really well for them. It's easier for them to kind of adjust or have some expectations. They may not always know the time of day, but they know after that mealtime, they go to the next activity, or they know after mealtime, it's time to go to the restroom and go get cleaned up or freshened up. So it's important to get organized. It's also good for not just the resident, it's for you. It'll be kind of your schedule. Try to keep it best for you and prioritize and make lists to establish those daily routines. Again, keep your health as the first priority. I know you've heard it probably 1,000 times, but and it's easier said than done. But if you're not okay, they're not good. You can't be there for them. And so please make sure to keep your own health your first priority. See the doctor, make sure you make those routine exams, the yearly exams. Try to eat a balanced diet. Try to get the rest that you need. If you can find some time to exercise regularly, that's a great option. Schedule some time for yourself. I think this is probably one of the hardest things for most people, that I can't go and do this because I've got to take care of them. I've got to give the medications. I've got to cook the meals. He won't shower for anybody else but for me. give yourself the permission to go and do something you have probably put off, maybe seeing your kids, your grandchildren, your friends, because you can't go and do anything. There are respite resources available. I know that can be difficult to try to relinquish some of that control maybe, but do it for you. You deserve it. You work so hard every single day. You deserve to have something to do for yourself. And it may not be a whole weekend or a whole week. It may just be a couple hours a day. Start small. If you haven't been doing anything at all, just start small, whether that's even just going to lunch for yourself, or anything like that. Again, the asking for help, and be specific. That's the one thing I'm going to just emphasize the most, is try to be specific about what your needs are, what you need. Finding out about the community caregiving resources. Try to stay in touch with friends and family. Maybe you're looking for a faith-based group. I know a lot of churches, mosques, temples, they may have support groups that can help you with in your time. I know for us that we have a caregiver support group here, and for our families, and some of the relationships that have come from the support groups have been really incredible. Most of these people maybe wouldn't normally run in the same circles, but they find themselves in similar situations. They can relate to one another. And, now during COVID, more than ever, they're having, Zoom dates, and they're, talking via Zoom with each other to do check-ins, because they used to see each other here at the community and now they're not getting to. So now they're so close that they're checking in constantly with each other. If you can, try to find that support group with amongst, people that you typically wouldn't normally befriend, but y'all find yourselves in similar situations. And so Wendy was going to talk to y'all also about some alternative options if placement is ever a need for you. So she's going to talk to you a little bit about that.
Hi, everyone. So let's go down. So right now, considering alternative places. So I think whatever you're looking for, whether it's, I know right now adult day centers, right now that's more virtual, but if you are looking for placement, our advice to you is safety. Right now COVID's here. It's obviously not going anywhere. Know what their procedures are, know what their protocols are, what that looks like. Paint that scenario, ask those questions. If someone were to develop COVID, what is that going to look like? What does your isolation area look like? How are you preventing people from entering in the community that possibly might have contracted COVID? So there's a lot of questions to ask. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid to ask. It's really important. This is your loved one and yourself that you need to know these answers. And we actually have a literature that's coming out that's talking about questions. What questions do you ask? How are we supposed to know what to ask, right? We're not in this is new for us. And so I'll be more than happy once I get that literature for those questions to ask. And I'll send it over to Darian so that way she can get it out to y'all, as well as support system for home care. So what does that look like? You're not ready for placement, and that's okay. But you're realizing whether it's, the caregiver stress scale, or maybe you're noticing things for yourself that, hey, I can no longer do this on my own. I need some extra support. So whether that's maybe asking, family to assist, maybe that's not an option. If you're not able to get family or friends to assist, maybe someone from the church, then, if you do have someone come in, maybe it's a a private home care agency. So it's someone that's going to help support you a little bit more. Once again, asking those questions. How often are they going to other homes? How are they monitoring, making sure that someone doesn't have COVID? Are they doing pre-screening? Are they taking their temperatures? How often are they doing a COVID test? So things like that, I think those are really important. Sometimes we don't think of to ask, but I think once again, it's okay to ask it. This is your loved one. You need to know those answers. Nobody wants COVID. We need to know what your protocols are, what your procedures are, paint that scenario so that way I know firsthand what that's going to look like. If someone was possibly exposed, are you going to notify me? Are you going to let me know so that way I know what direction I need to go into our doctor to be tested, things like that. And then also the difference of cost between home care and facility and what that looks like. Of course, there's, when you do have at home agency coming in the home, part of the question too is what are they, when they're hiring, what does that pre-screening look like? Not just with COVID, but are they doing a criminal background check? Are they having them do a physical, things like that? Because once again, they're going to be in your home. You need to know that you can trust them with your loved one. You need to feel safe that they're in your home. But also too, when it comes to those home care agencies, I've seen pricing anywhere from $10 up to $30+ an hour. So it definitely can get pricey. And then you have to consider, how often are you wanting them in the home? Are you going to try to have them at least, most of those agencies have a 4-hour minimum. So let's just say if you have them 4-hour minimum, and then let's say you're trying to do at least 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever it may be, or maybe you're needing that overnight support because, hey, my loved one is likes to get up in the middle of the night and likes to try to go out for a walk, or whatever it may be. So you need that extra support in the home, and that's where they might come in. So it can get pretty costly. And then if you're comparing it to a facility, whether it's a memory care assisted living, or whether it's a personal care home, whatever it may be, 9 times out of 10, it's definitely less costly to live in a long-term care facility than it is having a one-on-one caregiver, just depending on what that's going to look like, how often you're going to have them in the home, and how many hours, how often. It adds up. So when you're considering that, those are things to think of. And of course, when you are looking at a facility, there's some facilities have what they call levels of care. There's quite a bit of memory care communities out there. It's just knowing which one is going to be best for y'all, what's going to best meet your loved one's needs. So my advice, whether you're looking at a standalone memory care, that's the only thing that they're able to care for people that do have dementia diagnosis, versus other communities that have independent living, assisted living, and a memory care attached. Once again, asking those questions. If your loved one's needs change, what is that going to look like? Is there going to be extra pricing to where that can become costly? So you have some communities that are all inclusive in pricing. That means they're all inclusive in medication management, taking your loved one, assisting them with their everyday living. Maybe it's their grooming, maybe it's helping them go into the bathroom. Some communities actually charge for that. So, you need extra assistance with your medications. Well, that's going to be this much extra a month. You need assistance with toileting. Guess what? That's a little bit extra a month. So those are things to consider, because it adds up, and it's most of the time it's a little bit more cost efficient for you to go somewhere that's all inclusive instead of having those levels of care. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be changes of condition. There's going to be a need for that eventually, whether your loved one is able to assist him or herself to the bathroom. Well, eventually that's going to change, where they're going to need some extra assistance. So you need to really think of those questions ahead of time. If there is a change of condition to where they're more progressed in their dementia, to where they're needing total care. Are they able to accommodate you? Are they going to ask you to leave when that need changes? So those are things to consider, and especially when it comes to pricing. Availability of medical care in the home. Nowadays, a lot of us are fearful to go into the doctor's office because of obvious reasons, because of COVID being present here. A lot of us are doing the telehealth, right? That's a little bit more convenient. It's easier and it's risk-free of having COVID, developing COVID, right? So once again, some facilities are offering telehealth in their communities, or they have medical directors, or they have doctors that are coming in their communities, because that is considered an essential worker coming in because the need is still there. And then an ability to tour facilities or visits. As of right now, state is not allowing us to have anyone visually in the community to take a tour. So what we're experiencing is virtual tours. So it's not the same, but it's modified. You're still able to experience, the communities. Is just on a different level, of course. But once again, it's just safety, making sure that we're not exposing our residents to someone that possibly might have COVID. With our residents, our population, we're at higher risk to develop COVID. And sometimes the outcome is not the greatest. So we're just more safety for our residents and for our associates as well. So, asking, virtual tours, or, a lot of communities have their own website that have those virtual tours on their websites, and asking those right questions. So, and then of course, attaches some resources. Of course, our website is on there. The Alzheimer's Association is always a great resource. Family Caregiver Alliance, and then Resource Finder, and of course, Care Partners. Care Partners, everyone's very familiar with Care Partners. They've been a wonderful partner for Silverado. They have great resources. They know who they can reach out to. They know how to guide you on the right direction. And then of course, thank y'all all so much for allowing us to speak on this important topic. And my information is below if anyone has any questions or just needs some guidance. We'll be more than happy to assist any way we can. I don't know if we have any questions. Is there any questions, Darian, you're seeing on your part?
So it looks like we have a couple of comments. Robert Ziegler says, yes, overreacting often, anger often. So something that he experiences in his life with care. And then we have another comment from Suzanne. She says, this is the piece that COVID gets in the way of. My exposure is my mom's exposure. And so there are things I just won't do, like go inside a restaurant to eat or a hair salon. A walk or visit outside, no problem, but options are very limited. Do you maybe have any suggestions for some alternative things people could do? Like she did suggest in that sometimes going for a walk is one of the best things you can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also too, I think, we all have access, or most of us have access to, whether it's YouTube or something, going to Google's our best friend, right? On YouTube nowadays, there's so many different things on there to where you can Google, maybe it's sit and be fit. Maybe it's laughter yoga. Maybe it's chair chi. So it's think back to the basics. Those are things that will not cost you anything. It's things that you could do in the comfort of your home. Or hey, if it's a nice day, it's not too chilly, take a couple chairs in your backyard, put some soothing music on and do some meditation. So there's so many different things that you could do in the comfort of your home that won't cost anything. And it's relaxing, not only for your loved one, but also for yourself. Maybe that's, getting your loved one to do the same, doing things together. Maybe together y'all are, doing a project. Maybe you are the front door. Maybe the front door needs a little touch up. I know sometimes that's, more of I don't really want to do that. But sometimes you can find that very therapeutic to where you can do it together. Once again, put some music on, music that y'all love, you're sanding down the front door, you're restaining it, you're painting. It's an ongoing project. You may not finish it the first day, you may not finish it the second day. It might take you a week, but guess what? It's going to be rewarding because you did it together. The outcome looks great, and it's something that was very, very therapeutic.
And I'd even say, asking what precautions are being taken at, there's a certain place that you'd like to go to get your hair done, or something that, ask them what their protocols are. Ask them, are they going to be wearing PPE? Is there a way that they only have like one person in at a time, so it can help limit your exposure? Whether that, and that way you can wear a mask the whole time. I know that we were just able to start having our beautician come back to the community, but there's a whole protocol that has to be done, ahead of time. There's a COVID test that's taken place. She has to wear a mask, a face shield. It's only one person in at a time, all the hand washing, temperature checks, so maybe just ask your beautician, if you'd like to go get your hair done or something, what protocols and precautions are they taking to try to keep you and themselves safe, if you felt comfortable, doing something like that. If you knew that you were maybe the only person in, and the chair was sanitized, everything, it doesn't hurt to ask. Also just a good drive. Sometimes just get in the car and put on your music or put on a podcast, or, if you felt comfortable enough to go get a coffee or something through the drive-through, and have that in your car, just so you can have a moment, to yourself, and a chance to just get away from the environment. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, just more of being able to find time for you, so that you have a moment to breathe. We all get stir crazy, and COVID we all probably thought initially like, oh, this isn't too bad, I get to stay at my house for a moment, and then now here it is November, and we're like, get me out of here, I gotta get out of here. So even I love a drive with a good podcast, that would be, maybe a suggestion, but certainly checking in on what people's precautions are. That's maybe what I would encourage.
And I think too, there's, we're doing everything virtually now, right? So maybe when your loved one is, resting, or, has gone to bed for the night, there's so many different groups online now, to where maybe see if there's like a book club that you might be able to join, or maybe there's some other kind of club that you can, that's your time, to where whether you're drinking a cup of coffee or a soda or a glass of wine or a beer while you're having your book club, you're able to connect with someone, you're able to bond with someone because you're reading a particular book that you're enjoying. It's you time, and it's kind of getting your mind off of what you are engaging with on a daily basis. So I'm not saying you're trying to ignore, what the reality is, but I think you need to go and, like Haley's sharing, have you time. And if having a book club, or maybe having something else that's going to make you happy, it's, once again, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I think those are some really great tips and some great ideas. And I was thinking about that point too, about making sure to do something for yourself. One thing I've heard too is make sure it's something that is very personal to you, because not everyone's going to like the same thing. And so even if it's something that we haven't mentioned today, just think about the things that you really like, that make you happy, and just make that time for yourself, because it is truly important. And the other thing too, I kept some notes while you guys were talking, is that it doesn't even have to be something complicated. It can be something very simple. We think about it has to be this, or this, but it can really just be like sitting in the yard, or listening to your favorite song, or reading your favorite book, like they were mentioning.
And I think too, if you, doing the simple, just sitting in the backyard, like you said, I think just being able to give yourself permission to have a scheduled time to have your alone time, I think that you'll find in those moments of when the anger comes, or I think you will see that will decrease. The outburst, or, lashing out, or the frustration. There's still going to be frustrating times, but I think that you will find that you'll have more reserve for the stressful situations if you take the time for you. So, that's just, I think you'll find that you'll see that will, maybe just because you're not, it's like a trash can. You keep piling everything on top, and eventually it all starts falling out. You got to take some stuff out, take some time for you. And then I don't think those moments would not feel as overwhelming.
Yeah. I think that stress scale tool that you guys mentioned was a really great idea for a place to start. And as you guys mentioned too, I will be sending an email with a link to rewatch this video and some extra resources. One of the main goals at Care Partners is to make sure that the caregiver is taking care of themselves. We really know that without that, there isn't someone to care for their loved one. So we do offer that Common Ground support group twice a week, and it's really a chance. It's a very open platform. Everybody has a chance to share. People share resources and things just that they're going through. So that might be an option if you're looking for some more connection. We have it twice a week too. It's every Tuesday at 10 a.m. and every Wednesday at 2 p.m. So there's going to be one this afternoon. And I'll send all that information in the email as well. One other note that I had that I thought was great while you were talking, it might be a great idea to keep a list of the things that you need help with. So when people ask you, what can I do for you? You're not just saying, oh, nothing, I'm fine, or I'm not sure. You actually have a physical list of tasks and things that people could help you with. We've heard that in the past. So I just thought that was a really great piece of information to share too. Robert said that he plays online bridge at night. So that's what I mean. It can be a very, very personal thing for you that just brings you some sort of joy. And if there's any other comments or questions, we'll probably wrap it up soon. We really appreciate, oh, sorry, there we go. We really appreciate Wendy and Haley for being here and sharing with us. It is such an important topic, and it is an extra stressful time for everyone. So we want to always put that reminder out there to take care of yourself as well. Any final thoughts?
Thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all for being here.
Yes.
All right. Well, I will also provide their contact information if you come up with some follow-up questions later. So you should be receiving an email this afternoon. Just once again, we are so grateful that you all are here, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank y'all.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.